we found significant weaknesses in the department's information practices. This included not having a standardized approach for storing, managing, and using project information. In addition, the department has not set itself up to track long-term outcomes. So while it is able to show, for example, that money has been spent to provide nutritious meals, it does not know whether long-term health outcomes have improved for the people who were supposed to receive those meals. These weaknesses make it impossible for Global Affairs Canada to accurately track and report on the outcomes of funded projects against the goals set out in Canada's Feminist international assistance policy. These weaknesses are not new. They were flagged in a departmental internal audit in 2021. Well, what we found here was actually that the department was unable to show us how the money invested actually was improving the lives of women and girls. I would chalk it up to two big things. The first being significant weaknesses in their information management systems, right from how you store data, gather it, share it, and use it for decision-making purposes. In fact, it took several months for us to gain access to the information that we had requested. That just tells me that people aren't using it for day-to-day information and decision-making. The second thing I would point out is that the department hadn't set itself up to look at long-term indicators of progress. They had 26 indicators in their policy, but all of them sort of tracked activities. So for example, we looked at a project where the government funded making schools more welcoming for girls and building washrooms and hand washing stations for girls in schools. While they could tell us how many washrooms had been built, they couldn't tell us whether or not girls' attendance at school was maintained or increased. So that focus on outcomes, while difficult, is really what's needed when it comes to international assistance. So I agree with you that tracking outcomes, especially when it comes to health, is complex and difficult. And you can't make the straight analogy that one nutritious meal will result in healthier outcomes. But if the project is designed to do that, to improve health outcomes, then you should at least set yourself up to try and track that kind of metric. Knowing how many meals go is a good indicator of progress, but not a good indicator of meeting the long-term goal in the policy, which is to make the lives of women and girls better.
Do you think there's a general lack of tracking of outcomes for international assistance as far as you have seen in your audits?
Well, in this audit, I would tell you, yes, there is a lack of tracking of outcomes, but I would say that that's almost more broader than just international assistance. We often talk about having good metrics on outputs, but not on outcomes, because it's just simpler. And I really believe that you need both. You need those outputs in order to show progress in the short to medium term, but you need the outcome indicators that you have to start tracking on day one in order to show the long-term benefit and the true value of the investment made by the government.